With everybody. Good evening, everyone, and I welcome you all to this first ever online webinar, which is the first of its kind in the series Musings in HPE towards enhancement and evolution of education. Now, as you see, that this has got a slightly different touch because we don't call it a journal club. We did not call it a webinar straight away. Because the purpose is a bit different. Now, this is a joint venture of Department of Health Professions Education, Bhaikaka University, and Sri Manakula Vinayagar Medical College and Hospital of Puducherry. Bhaikaka University is in Karamsad, Gujarat. The purpose of this event is, which is going to continue every third month, is to basically have discussions and intellectual dialogue between the medical and health professions educators in India and eventually abroad. We have many today who have joined who are from other countries other than India. To introduce, before I go into anything else, let me introduce the speaker. Speaker doesn't need any introduction, actually. Everybody in India knows him. He is Dr. Amol Dongre. He is an expert in qualitative research and also, of course, other avenues of educational research. He is a professor of community medicine in SMVMCH, Pondicherry. He was associated with Bhaikaka University at one point when I joined as a professor as a member of health professions education, as well as a professor of community medicine. So the topic chosen is qualitative research in online spaces. Now, those of you who have seen the flyer, you already know the purpose of this session is basically to enhance the critical appraisal skills in qualitative research, which is a very important aspect. This session will facilitate discussion and knowledge sharing between the participants and the speaker. Collaboration among professionals will be fostered because we need a lot of networking in educational research. And thus, it will promote continuous learning and professional development. Now, I won't take much time because we are already almost nearing 10 minutes. I would request Dr. Amol Dongre to take the stage, the virtual stage, to start his talk. But before that, a few do's and don'ts. You are all aware of the net culture, not virtual culture. Please keep your mics muted unless you want to speak. Try not to speak when the talk is going on. You can put your questions in the chat, which I will be moderating. We will try to address most of the questions or discussion points within the session. If not, then we will find out other avenues of doing that. And last but not the least, please do not do any annotation or marking or highlighting when the session is going on. Thank you, everyone. Over to Dr. Amol Dongre.
Good evening. Thank you, madam, for your kind introduction and accommodating this session for this webinar series. So let me share my slide here. Just please give me feedback if it is visible.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Just go to her. Fine. Perfect.
Yeah. Good evening, all. And thank you for joining this, I think, discussion on qualitative research in online spaces. I will speak for 20 minutes and then Madam will evoke discussion, which I would like to hear because this topic has some interesting points to discuss towards the end. What I will be taking you through is to explore the options for qualitative data collection in online spaces. And this is a rapidly growing field in the field of both in qualitative research and in education. So we thought of taking up this topic. Then examine the strengths and limitations of various qualitative data collection methods, quick one, and then what are the analytic approaches and ethical issues, and the issue about shifting the context from face to face to online, both in education and research. And this presentation is inspired with two publications. One is book, which I have cited here at the footnote, and the other one is Scoping Review, which got published in recent time. So we'll see. I mean, basically, I'm sure that quite a good number of you are aware of the definition of qualitative research, because it talks about uh, uh, data, which is text rather than numbers, and which is actually collected to get insight in the phenomena of interest that is under investigation. And we typically look for reasons, opinions, and motivations from subject's point of view. So we aim to go for in-depth understanding of phenomena using the text data, which is collected with the purpose of understanding it from the participant's point of view. There are some questions that how do human relations develop in relatively new space of online setting. That's particularly in the context of research in online spaces. The second question comes that how do one develop identity in online spaces? Because now in future, we anticipate most of the education and socialization would happen in online spaces. If not all, then at least a good portion of it. And then what kind of data these online spaces will generate, and are we ready to handle that data to make meaning from it? I'll be talking about it towards the end of this session. We have some qualitative methods that we know conventionally. We have in-depth techniques like focus groups, group interviews, and then one-to-one interviews. And there are some other techniques like nominal group technique and the conventional Delphis. And then we also have lots of secondary data in qualitative research like reports, minutes of meetings, newspaper clippings that we are aware of. But let's look at the online space now. Now, focus groups are called as virtual focus group if they are conducted in online setting. Are they equally effective? That's a question. Then you can do one-to-one interviews in online setting as well. And we have various virtual learning and social platforms like chat forums, listservs, and LMS. We are conferring online for webinar today, and the education is going to happen in this. So we are using a platform. We are generating data by recording this meeting. So that's the data. So blogs, Delphi, and then we have online newspapers, magazine, media sharing sites, project sharing sites, and they are increasing with more advancement. So that means we have more and more amount of secondary data being generated through this system. So we'll explore the possibilities and options of using these platforms mainly for doing educational and the qualitative research for your specialty that you are practicing. We have some barriers with the conventional qualitative research methods. We always think of structural barriers like to conduct some interviews, you might need to travel. There may be some issues of convenient timings. There may be issues scheduling the meetings. So loss of time in travel, making arrangements. So all that requires money and time. And then there are some issues in accessing hard to reach population, particularly we call them as hidden population, and understanding their tree, networking tree is tough in such kinds of situations. So we have such issues of reaching to the population. I mean, some hard to reach population. They may be geographically hard to reach, or sometimes there may be some stigma and discrimination associated with them. So scheduling appointments and having their interviews would be challenging in your conventional qualitative interview. And some participants may be discomfort in group settings, disclosing their personal stories, narratives. So, howsoever hard you try to ask questions in third person and get responses, people often end up telling their personal stories, which you might find difficult to handle later, but that raises some ethical issues for you. Then there is an issue of social desirability bias when you are meeting in face-to-face settings on that. So all these challenges which I have just showed here can be addressed through online settings. So we notice these barriers, particularly with the online settings, like benefits with the online settings, such as we can access diverse and geographically participants. Now, imagine this meeting is going on, and I see that nearly 56 participants joining in this meeting. And we are all from different locations, geographical settings, and then we are conferring today. So that's easy to happen in online environment. So no need to arrange or pay for any physical settings. Easy to audio video record it. Some sources do not require transcription. We can also create some auto transcript functions. There are chat messages, emails, which does not require any transcription because they are low inference descriptors and we can directly subject them to analysis. So that saves your transcription time as well. And it's this platform has been found easy to discuss sensitive topics because you have some settings where you can ask participant to switch off their video and then speak. So I think that that has been found as quite stimulating for carrying out useful for carrying out sensitive issues where participants don't want to reveal their identity in terms of their face at least. Then online focus group data was found to be at par with face-to-face. And we also have done one study during COVID time, and we found that the virtual focus groups offered us quite a good quality data, as reported by one of my colleagues who carried out this research. So there is rise in interest in qualitative research, particularly in online spaces. And with that respect, we'll see there are some situations like in education setting. We are slowly shifting to using learning management system in campus, and now we are going for using more online courses. Universities are thinking of going virtual, so most of the things in education would change in the future. So the conventional methods, perhaps, if not replaced, then will have some new additional components of online environment in it. For those who are educationists here, those who teach in medical college, carry out educational research, or you work in other health professional settings, so then you will have these questions, how to apply learning theories in virtual settings, because they were basically designed for face-to-face settings. So how well do they apply to online settings? So that's a question. Though there are some articles which argues that even theories which apply in face-to-face setting can be applied in virtual, but then how well do they apply? We haven't given good thought on that. So what are the ideal designs for learning to take place? Is it synchronous or is it asynchronous online, which works better? And what kind of digital practices among students enhance their learning? And what are the benefits and limitations of student teacher and parent interaction? So everything that we talk in face-to-face settings, if we shift that in online, how would that function? I mean, I don't say 100% shifting. I mean, even if it is done in combination, how do we do it, and what combination is appropriate? How much portions of face-to-face and online would be appropriate? We need a good research on that. Now, the major stuff which bothers or worries qualitative researchers is about socialization, which is happening in current time. We know that we don't not only learn from teachers, but we also learn from our peers. Then in virtual settings, how do we make sure that the social learning theories apply where people learn from each other? And how do we increase the zone of proximal development of our learners? So we have social networking site that we use for sharing our opinions. We do online interactions like Twitter, Facebook, o- y- Instagrams, where you share your messages, your images, your videos, and you get comments on it, and that shapes your opinion. And I would go a little further and say that also shapes your identity later. So media sharing sites, we have YouTube, and we have microblogging sites, like Twitter, your project sharing sites, and you have other sites as you are progressing on this. So having said all these things, I mean, we are shifting from face-to-face to online, if not 100%, that at least in some portion. Let's look at the nature of data in online spaces. That to begin with, we have the data is mostly in the form of short messages, and sometimes it's in the blogs. They are in the form of stories. Sometimes there are short description, feedbacks on educational experience and shopping and your travel experiences, that you will see that you often give feedback on your travel experiences or your hotel stay. And in educational settings, you might take feedbacks from your LMS on the educational exposure that student undergo. The short statements on microblogging sites, opinions, feelings, and emotions. And now you have emojis also. And the most interesting part is that this data is time-stamped. I mean, they are just not text data, but you can also make out what date and time uh, that data was created or posted on the site. Photographs and videos that shared on the platform. So what other data we can collect in online spaces, like observations? So just like we do ethnographic studies um, in our face-to-face setting, by going to with traditional communities, staying with them and understanding the culture from their point of view. This classic ethnographic studies are now happening in hospitals. We call them as focused ethnography. And now some ethnographers, they are doing some observations in online settings, and we call that as netnography. So they see how youngsters, they spend their time in online environment and how do they socialize. The purpose is that so observations in online environment can be a good source of data here. Then audio video recording, you get a good quality recording. Then discussions, if you have a discussion forum or chat forum, if you have listserv and you are generating discussions on that, that discussion can be subjected for thematic and content analysis. When you put likes on any social media platform, you leave a footprint behind. Those footprints can also be analyzed. You can give likes in terms of stars, or you can express your emotions through emojis. They are all data. I came across a review, a scoping review on what kind of online qualitative research is happening and how it is geographically scattered. And that scoping review said that we have lot of data, I mean, lot of studies happening in Europe and US, and we almost have none from our region. But I anticipate that we are using this platform. Only thing, we have not done research on that. There's plenty of scope for us. So we have to go beyond just taking reactions from the participant, how they found that whole exercise. We have enough of that kind of studies. But then can we go beyond and measure little higher learning outcomes, that in terms of their knowledge and skills acquisition as a result of this online platform? And which one is better? I mean, synchronous or asynchronous in that way. So we have plenty of scope. I'll just quickly take you through the benefits and limitations of some forums, and then we'll hand it over to moderator for discussion. We have online forums, so we can access large number of samples on that. We can have wide geographical coverage, and the collection can be enriched by interaction between the subject. You can have some interactive discussions even in online platform, and you can ensure data collection neutrality here. And it is possible to collect data on sensitive subjects. But we also have to be mindful that for any good research, we always need background characteristics of our participants. So getting socio-demographic data in detail with good measurements would be tough here. The other issue which bothers qualitative research is that if you get too much of superficial data, you won't get in-depth understanding, which I was telling you. I mean, I showed you in the beginning of it. So will that hamper the very purpose of qualitative research by just doing the text analysis? There will be selection bias, particularly those who have internet access will be joining for that learning. So will that cause some exclusion to those who don't have that? So there will be some communication noise also, and that's too much of information overload. We have Facebook platform for this, and the limitations and the benefits are same for this platform as well. But what I would like to focus a bit here again is about virtual focus group. And there are some studies which showed, and one of is ours, my colleague, she did, and she found that works for her. So it works when respondents are geographically scattered, particularly in COVID time. There was a lockdown and there was no option of carrying out face to face. So that time we tried it and it worked for us. There might be situations when participants are geographically scattered, they have stable internet connection, and you want to evoke discussion with them on some topic. There may be experts geographically scattered, and then you want to have some consensus, at least some kind of consensus done in the focus group. Then the consent obtaining procedure can be simplified here, and then it removes the barriers in expression, and you can use a video conferencing platform to carry out. But yes, you might lose non-verbal data if you don't video record it. And there is fear of superficial responses because they say that you need eye-to-eye contact to feel like sharing your information. So if there is no eye-to-eye contact between the participant, will that affect the quality of data? All these issues are still unaddressed, at least in our context, because you will remember, you will notice that even carrying out face-to-face focus group discussion in our context is challenging because participants are always a bit shy. They don't have strong opinions to express in meetings because it's always recommended to keep quiet when your seniors are there. So having this kinds of discussion is challenge even in face-to-face meeting. How would that happen in virtual settings? We haven't explored much on that. So that's the area that we need to study further. You have blogs. You can analyze your own blogs, your own stories, and come out with some themes and say, this is what I have written, and that's the theme that's coming out of it. There are challenges in carrying out, like as I told you about selection bias. For example, will that give access to only rich people or in rural area where you have stable internet connection? Will that exclude tribal population or interior or hard to reach population as they won't have the stable internet connection? Then fear of thin responses. So they say that going for thematic analysis would be difficult here, but going for content analysis might achieve the purpose. Then the issue of asynchronous data, and then hard to collect demographic information, as I mentioned. And we have two options here, thematic as well as content analysis. Now, if you have automation, I mean, you record it, you automate it, and with the artificial intelligence coming in bigger way, and if you prepare more efficient transcripts from it, and accurate rather, as of now, we are struggling to get that. If we get that, then the futuristic softwares will talk more about, perhaps deal more efficiently with the content analysis. So we have to be ready for that. Then conceiving the project in online spaces. So shall we go for mono method or you need multiple sources? And you have plenty of options here. You can go for multiple sources of data collection to bring the triangulation. That's what the recommendation is. And you have both offline and online settings for collecting your data on that. So without ethical consideration, your research is incomplete. So let me put some point. I won't be having answers to all the questions, but just putting it forward because we need more research, and more than that, we need guidelines on ethics to be developed for carrying out research in online spaces, particularly the qualitative research. So there is difficulty in understanding from where the private and sensitive information are, what are the scales, and obtaining the permission, whose data is that, deciding the access protocol, like before, what permissions you need, during, how will you obtain the consent, and after, how will you exit from it. Ensure that researchers gain ethical entry into the online spaces. So what does that mean? The ethical entry means, in our context, I'm talking about given our biomedical guidelines. And then the data needs to be properly encrypted during the data transmission stage. And when you consider you need interdisciplinary teamwork to address the technical shortcomings, to address the ethical issues when you carry it out. So these are my two summary points, that we have option of using qualitative methods in online spaces. It's emerging, it's coming in a big way, it's evolving. And then it has its own advantages and challenges. So we won't say that this is the best option which is coming up. We say this is the option coming up. And when you conceive a project, you have to just look at the pros and cons of your platform and see what is the purpose and what you're looking for. I will be giving my contact details here if you have any questions in the future. But however, I won't guarantee that I will have answers, but I will try to get the best responses for you from the resources that I have, and would like to listen to your questions later. But I hand it over the session to moderator, Dr. Sarmishtha Ghosh. So thank you, madam, for accommodating this topic for this discussion. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amol. This is our privilege that we got you to share such. This might have sparked a lot of interest. I'm sure people are going to do now qualitative research. Okay, I'm pretty sure about that. Can I see some thumbs up here in the screen, on the screen? How many of you are interested now? Whether online or offline. See, it's all flashing up now. Yeah, this has been a very interesting and insightful talk, definitely. So I will first open this session for discussion or asking pertinent questions. You can, I think we are how many? We are 71. 71 means we are 69 of you actually participants. Just unmute yourself and ask straight away. Otherwise, I have a couple of issues here which I may bring up after this. So you have heard Dr. Dongre, right? He has categorically stated about the pros and cons of using an online platform for collection of data or conducting an interview. I personally faced this. When I did my MHP, my topic was actually to find out how academicians in different institutions are coping up with the COVID stress. So I faced it, whatever he said, the face-to-face and the synchronous session, eye contacts, asking them to keep their camera open. So how much effort is needed? So yes, go ahead, participants. Anyone from the floor?
Good evening, Jay Shri here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Not a question per se, but just a thinking. Like, as you said, ma'am, that doing conducting a qualitative research on an online platform is really, really difficult, because in face to face, you have participants with you whom you are observing, not only the verbal but non-verbal cues as well. And everything, I mean, like you said, in online platform, you have to ask them to keep their cameras on. So even that might not actually give you the entire gesture or their body language or things like that. So how do we I mean, how much do we depend on the reliability of the online platforms, I mean, online method of research compared to the offline one?
Okay, Amol, please go ahead.
I say I mean, that's a topic of study, but I quoted one study, and plus based on our experience, I don't say that qualitative is online space is perfect platform for carrying out qualitative research. But the two studies have shown that the quality of information that one would get in face-to-face is same as one get in online. But they were mostly done during COVID times. Maybe we can carry out some study and check how well it happens. We can carry some interviews in face-to-face settings and then some for online. But what I was talking that I see this option with promising for carrying out geographically scattered participant and on sensitive topics. I think that can be the option we can explore rather than comparing and choosing the one. I would suggest that choosing the method according to the context. So
Context,
we
right.
can just use it. I mean, we don't need to replace face to face, but situations, depending on the situations, you can choose this option if the face to face is not visible for you.
Got the
Jayashree,
point, sir.
if I
Yes,
can
ma'am.
just add on,
Yes, ma'am.
see, as it is when you do a qualitative study, your selection of subjects depends a lot on what you actually want to gather.
Certainly.
Okay, so they should be articulative, they should be mindful, they should have thoughtful ideas, right?
Vocal.
In that case, when you are using adult participants, most of the time, if you tell them your expectations, they do comply. That is what I tried. I tried to do that and I got it. Okay, but still, I mean, as with all data sets, you can never say that this data is foolproof, right? So we have to have the way, balance of things. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And here, Dr. Jayapriya has posted on the chat, I want to learn how to do qualitative research. Any online resource material you suggest which gives practical knowledge? Yes, Amol.
I mean, I have shared my contact details. You can write to me and then I will share some resources with you. Here is one question I'm saying. It's that ethical guidelines take time for emerging areas of research.
Yes. Any ethical
Would
problem?
research be subject to ethical committee stance or we can cite foreign publications and get permissions? That's a point I think we need to discuss. We need ethical guidelines on conduct of qualitative research in online spaces, particularly when it is particularly growing. Maybe at the point, I think we can get the advice from our local ethics committee on that. And I'm interested to hear from it if there are some experts on bioethics to tell us about how to go about that particular aspect. And then one thing to what I was saying that we are not here to decide whether online is good or bad. I'm saying that we have more choice now. So in qualitative research or in any research, what we do that we don't decide, we make choices. So we have now more broad, comprehensive, rather menu card where we can choose the methods according to the context. So that would be my stand on this part. Thank you.
Dr. Amol, this is Dr. Rajiv Mohan. I've been working in the research sector for around about 30 years now, and I found your presentation to be excellent. Very, very, very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And this the topic what you have dealt is very important in this modern era where people don't have time. You can't travel to do 5 FGDs. One FGD costs 5,000 or 10,000 rupees. One small FGD. To do a proper FGD, it may take 20,000 rupees. So most of the lot of qualitative work in India is done. They don't take in the quantitative data thing. So generally it is suggested you do the quantitative study, get findings there, and then do the qualitative work so you can find out the reasons, perceptions, and all these things. So I feel it's a very important thing. But my one concern is that in our times we go to the field, we select people, we spend a day Many times we go beforehand there and then select. But if we do it online, we may get people who are really not the real people who we want. They may represent either elite group, highly educated group, high of the higher caste. So you get my thing. So how do we control for to get a heterogeneous group? Some places you in FGDs you need homogeneity, but some places also you need some heterogeneity. So that is why one small concern.
Yes, sir. That's really, thank you, sir, for that. It's really important point that in qualitative research, to get good quality data, you need a rapport with the people. And in traditional, we go to community, they see us, that there is a trust building, and then you access their thoughts in the environment of that trustworthy context. But how will that happen in online? That's a question here. So how rapport building will happen in online? I would say that we have to choose the topics. In that case, we don't need to replace field exercises with online. We can carry on with the field exercises, but what we are saying that we can carry out qualitative research on online platforms where people are already present, and you also hang around on those platforms and you have some rapport on the people. So there I see it has possibility. And the other point that you said, that the fear of exclusion, that we have to be mindful of it. And if we think that's going to happen, we shouldn't be using this platform for collecting data. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Rajiv, your concern has been answered.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Shani has a point here. Can we share the potential topics of discussion with the participants before conducting a focus group discussion? Can we tell them that this is what we are going to discuss earlier, before we start with the questions, just to tune them to the particular topic?
Well, that's a question. Okay. When we do some group interviews and focus group, actually, we are not testing their knowledge. We want to understand their perception. So what if we share interview questions with them in advance? So they will come prepared. Thoughts will be more organized. That's what my stance is on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is
Sir,
yeah.
Good evening, sir. This is Dr. Barkha Panjwani. I'm a Masters of Public Health student, and the presentation was excellent, sir. It evoked some ideas, definitely. And I wanted to ask, what do you mean by ethical entry into online spaces? In the ethics part, you discussed that.
In that case, what happens, for example, if you are on the Facebook and you want to see how socialization of medical student or socialization on the Facebook is happening, for example, you are on maybe on any other platform. And people have done some kind of studies on observing people's behavior, at what time they log in, how many people are online. And on Facebook, there are some groups, there are some activities happening in that group. So people have done research on socialization within that Facebook groups. Now, are the participants aware that you are in the group and you're doing observation? So that's what I'm saying about ethical entry. And so people have, some organizations and bodies have worked out their ethical guidelines about informing the participants in advance that XYZ, Mr. XYZ is going to come to our group and he will do the observations of our group. So that is what I meant by ethical entry on the platform. Are participants aware that these observations are done? And if you are participating in listserv discussion, are participants aware that whatever notes, things that you are writing on the discussion, they will be subjected to analysis? Are they aware? So ethical entry means taking permissions before from those who hold that data or platforms. During means taking consent from the participants who are there on the platform, and then exiting from that. And how do you exit from that? Now that's a question here. But then when you go for large platforms, like you do observations in large crowds outside, will you take a consent for that? Or when you do observations on social media where people are logging in at different times and they're moving, how will you take the consent from that? And what is the ethical entry for that? So by ethical entry, I mean that are your participants aware of your observations and the text data that you are collecting? So we need a guidance and direction for carrying out that stuff.
Is there no guideline on that from, say, other bodies, like foreign other bodies, like
Outside, they have
enter
developed the
into a
guidelines.
social media platform,
Mhm.
and I just suppose I watch it, and then without naming anybody, without naming the social media, that is cumulatively I publish or I do something. So who is going to capture?
Mhm.
Where is the ethical guideline there? That is what.
Yeah, I think we can discuss on that here on the platform.
Okay.
Because I haven't done that kind of research. I mean, in whatever online we have done, we have taken consent from the participant.
Because
But
this digital dilemma has been a big issue these days. And in
Right.
WFME, I have a workshop with my Malaysian colleague, how to navigate through these digital dilemmas and
Right.
develop your professional identity. Okay. I don't know whether I'm
Right.
going to go to Bangkok or not, but this
Right.
has been accepted.
Right.
So that shows that it is a matter of concern.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Are ECs equipped to give ethical permission for online platforms?
Ma'am Jayashree asked this.
Yes.
Actually, EC में the context is like the EC is allowed to give a permission to a range of 50 kilometers or so, when it is a physical approval given. But in online there is no boundary, and what kind of data you get into, and I mean there are hundreds of things that you might get into. So is EC equipped enough to give a permission to go for a study of that kind? Or that's what I mean, you said that the guidelines are not clear, but I don't know whether, even if there are guidelines, would how far that would be applicable to a project. I'm not very sure.
Amol, would you like to address that, or you want me to
No, I
address?
haven't thought on that. But then that is the point. I mean, when we work out the guidelines, we need on the
Actually,
direction for that.
normally universities for their respective ECs, they do it. They set guidelines. That's how I mean, when I worked in Malaysia, I saw that they had their guidelines, that what data are you picking up, what are you writing in your project, because there was a system that every 6 months you have to declare how much you have done, what you have done. So there's a strict guideline there. So the filter was already there. Now, if you are an unethical researcher, and in the process, if you already capture some data which you don't reveal that, okay, I have captured this data also, then I think it will be very difficult to control that. Okay, Dr. Mahesh, here, can you just unmute your mic and say? I think you asked about some of the platforms from where you can gather data, isn't it? What online options are available other than Google Forms to keep the participants' response? To keep the participants' response where? Anonymous, okay. Many a times, participants are hesitant to respond to online questionnaires or through other digital modes for the concern of their identity being revealed. And will ethical issues creep in? Yes. Dr. Amol?
Well, I think that's what, when you conceive the project, we don't think of, I mean, we shouldn't be thinking of ethical issues when you conceive and when you start working on it. I mean, that might come during when you implement it, but it's better to start thinking of it beforehand and ask yourself question that whatever topic I have chosen and the methods that I'm choosing, can I address those issues? So sometimes topic can be the source of ethical issues, and sometimes the methods that you choose can be the source of issue. And in virtual settings, it is the platform that can be the source of issues. So you have to see the pros and cons of the choices that you make, and seek guidance from your ethics committee on this matter. So that would be my stance on that. So whatever qualitative research I have done so far, I mean, I have done limited in online spaces, but usually those online platforms were my own courses that we were running, and we use that data for our own internal purpose, for program evaluation, for carrying out workshop evaluations, that we take feedback from the student. So it's not about socialization in online spaces, but it's about how learning takes place in online settings. So that's the major issue, I would say. That's the to be discussed. And the other thing which I mentioned in my initial slides is about that we know how learning theories functions in face-to-face setting. Do they equally apply in virtual settings? That's a question for educationists to concern about. And doing data collection, even quantitative data is happening in online space. I mean, people are using Google platforms for sending their surveys, for collecting data. So that's happening on that.
Okay, so I think Dr. Nirmala has pointed out one thing, has informed that ICMR doesn't have any guidelines on these online data collection things, okay? So this is an information, but we can
Right.
also explore other, say, for example, whichever research bodies we have for qualitative research and all, we can explore. But I have seen foreign universities, they have their own guidelines.
They have, yes.
They have their own
Agree.
guidelines. So I think in the Indian scenario, we sort of need to do that. Okay, so in the interest of time, I think I will have to wind it up now. We have just 7 minutes left. Now, Dr. Amol had given me 4 questions here, that if no participant asks any questions, then I am supposed to ask this. Now, out of these 4, Dr. Amol, I think 3 of them have been already discussed, right? The
Okay,
last
yes.
one, what kind of theories support research evaluation in online spaces? Would you like to add a couple of lines on that?
No, I really have that question. So, I mean, will they apply? And if they, how we should be going for it? Because these theories are often constructed in the, what to say,
On-site, I mean face-to-face.
on-site in face-to-face settings. So, do they equally apply online?
No problem. We have
There
about
are.
60 people still. Now, out of these 60 people, can we say that we are going to have a research done on this? A qualitative research proposal on this? That what kind of theories, how do people perceive online interviews? Yes or no? Okay. So I would like to conclude now. Okay, fine. Dr. Savitri, yes. Okay. Just get in touch with Dr. Amol. He's going to help you out. Okay.
I see there are plenty of questions in chat box. I have tried to answer some of them by responding,
Yes.
but there is some setting issue happening at my end. So if we save this
Yeah, the chat will be saved.
chat,
Yes.
I
And
will go through it and post my responses on
Sure.
WhatsApp group that we have.
Sure. I am saving the chat, so no problem. Okay. So I will conclude here by saying that technology is here to stay. And every time meeting people and eliciting information may not be possible. We might have to use online also, online on-site. Let us strike a balance and let us take the best out of both the methods. And as Professor Ron Harden always says, that when you get a lemon, make a lemonade out of it. And I tend to add, when you get chilies, what do you do out of that? But let us not consider everything as a chili. Let us consider that we are getting lemons. It can be sour. It can be tasteless, whatever. But we need to find out ways and avenues so that this can be used best to elicit information, to move our research farther forward. And as you have all seen, as Dr. Amol also pointed out, very less research published from Indian subcontinent. So we may also take a sort of a vision towards that. Let us do some work and go ahead with it. We were going to conduct a similar session again within 3 months because we have planned it in this. But in between, we are going to have another one on this digital dilemma. Okay. So if all of you are okay and you are sparked with ideas, we can call it a day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you, madam. I'm exiting from the meeting. Thank you very much.
I'll just exit. Once all exit, then I'll exit.
Thank you, madam. Okay.
I'm stopping the recording now.
Right. Thank you.